You see them every day. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, they're everywhere you look. You hop in one to get to work, to grab groceries, or just to go for a drive. We know the big names, right? Henry Ford, Enzo Ferrari, Ferdinand Porsche. These guys are legends, and for good reason. They built empires. They put their names on the hoods of some of the greatest machines ever made. But what about the folks who design the little things? The things we touch and use every single day without a second thought. The car world is full of these people. They're the ghosts in the machine, the brilliant minds whose names you probably don't know, but whose work you definitely do. These are the unsung heroes of automotive design. They weren't always the ones in the fancy corner office. Sometimes they were draftsmen, engineers, or even artists who just had a really good idea. They saw a problem and came up with a clever solution. Think about it. Before them, cars could be clunky, unsafe, and just plain difficult to use. These innovators smoothed out the rough edges. They made cars more comfortable, more practical, and a whole lot safer for everyone. Their genius wasn't always celebrated with a big parade or a fancy trophy. Often their reward was just seeing their idea become a standard feature on millions of cars, changing how we drive forever. Let me tell you, I've been lucky enough to see and drive thousands of cars in my life, and the more you look, the more you see these hidden stories. It's like being a detective. You start noticing the small details. Why is that handle shaped that way? Who thought of putting a light in the glove box? Who decided that a lever on the steering column was the best place for the turn signal? These aren't accidents. Someone, somewhere, had a moment of inspiration. They fought for their idea, drew up the plans, and convinced the big bosses to give it a shot. And because they did, our lives are just a little bit easier. So, let's pop the hood on history, shall we? Let's go beyond the famous badges and the flashy marketing. We're going to talk about a few of these incredible people. These are the folks who didn't just build cars. They made them better for all of us. They solved puzzles you didn't even know existed. Their fingerprints are all over the modern automobile, hiding in plain sight. It's a story of quiet genius, of practical solutions, and of a passion for making things work just a little bit better. It's a story that deserves to be told, and I think you're going to like it. Let's talk about turn signals. Seems simple, right? You flick a lever and a light blinks. But back in the day, it wasn't so easy. You had to roll down your window and stick your arm out. Rain or shine, hot or cold. It was messy and, frankly, pretty dangerous. Other drivers might not see you or understand what you were doing. Then along came a woman named Florence Lawrence. You might know her as one of the very first movie stars, a huge name in the silent film era. But she was also a brilliant inventor. She loved cars and she loved tinkering with them. She saw this problem with signaling and thought, there has to be a better way. So, what did she do? In 1914, Florence designed what she called an auto-signaling arm. It was a clever mechanical device. She rigged up a little flag on the rear fender of the car. With the push of a button from the driver's seat, this arm would pop up or down, telling the drivers behind her that she was about to make a turn. It was genius in its simplicity. She also designed a sign for the back of the car that would flip up and say stop whenever she pressed the brake pedal. This was the very beginning of the modern brake light. She was thinking about driver-to-driver communication over a century ago. Now here's the part of the story that gets you. Florence never patented her inventions. She was a movie star after all, and her mother, a fellow inventor, had been burned by bad business deals before. So, she just created these things for her own car because she wanted them. She showed them off to people, but the big auto companies swooped in and developed their own versions without ever giving her a dime or a bit of credit. For decades, her contribution was completely forgotten. The industry adopted flashing electric lights, but the core idea, a dedicated visible signal to show a driver's intention, was hers. Before Florence Lawrence, cars were like islands on the road. Each driver was isolated, guessing what the other guy was going to do. After her idea took hold, cars started talking to each other. It was a fundamental shift in road safety. Her work laid the foundation for the system we all use today. Every time you flick that turn signal stalk, you're using an idea that was dreamed up by a silent film star who just wanted a safer way to get around town. She saw a problem, she fixed it, and she made the road a safer place for everyone who came after her. Now let's jump forward a few decades and talk about Bella Bareni. Ever heard of him? Probably not. But if you've ever been in a car accident and walked away, you might just have him to thank. Bereni was an Austrian engineer who worked for Mercedes-Benz for most of his career. He was a quiet, thoughtful guy, but he was absolutely obsessed with safety. Back in the 1930s and 40s, the common wisdom was that a safe car had to be rigid. The thinking was, if the car doesn't bend, the people inside won't get hurt. It sounds logical, but it's completely wrong, and Bereni knew it. Bella Bereni looked at cars differently. He didn't just see a collection of steel and glass, he saw a protective shell for the people inside. He came up with a revolutionary concept, the crumple zone. His idea, which he patented in 1951, was to divide the car into 3 sections. Media Group, patent drawing for automotive safety. Bella Bereni holding technical drawings at its stock at distribute_equally. There was a strong, rigid central safety cell where the passenger sat. Then there were soft sections at the front and the rear. In a crash, these front and rear sections would be designed to collapse, to crumple, in a controlled way. This crumpling action would absorb the energy of the impact, slowing the car down more gradually and keeping that destructive force away from the people in the middle. Getting this idea into production was a huge battle. People told him he was crazy. "You want to build a car that falls apart on purpose?" they'd ask. The old guard was stuck on the idea that a stronger, stiffer frame was always better. But Bereni persisted. He used physics and countless tests to prove his point. He showed that a rigid car stops instantly in a crash, transferring all that violent energy directly to the occupants. His soft car, however, acted like a catcher's mitt, absorbing the force of the ball. It was a complete reversal of how everyone thought about automotive safety. Finally, in 1959, Mercedes-Benz introduced the W111 Fintail sedan. It was the first production car in the world built with Bella Bereni's crumple zones and a rigid passenger cell. It set a new standard for safety that the entire industry would eventually have to follow. Before Bereni, car safety was mostly about not getting into an accident. After Bereni, it was about surviving one if you did. His work saved countless lives. He also developed other key safety features like the collapsible steering column and padded dashboards. He was a true humanitarian who used engineering to protect people. So, what does all this mean for you and me today on June 7, 2025? It means that the cars sitting in our driveways are living museums of these brilliant ideas. The work of people like Florence Lawrence and Bella Bereni isn't just a dusty old history lesson, it's active technology that protects you every single time you get behind the wheel. When you're merging onto the freeway and you tap that turn signal, you're using a modern version of Florence's signaling arm. That simple, blinking light is part of a complex language that keeps traffic flowing and prevents countless accidents every day. It's a quiet legacy of a woman who was 100 years ahead of her time. And the genius of Bella Bereni is literally built into the bones of your car. Today, every single vehicle sold is designed with crumple zones. Engineers use powerful computer simulations to design frames that collapse in very specific, predictable ways during a crash. They direct the forces of impact around the passenger cabin, not through it. This principle is the absolute bedrock of modern passive safety design. It's the reason why people can now walk away from collisions that would have been fatal just a few generations ago. His humane approach to engineering is now the global standard. These heroes teach us a valuable lesson. Innovation doesn't always come from the top. It doesn't always have a famous name attached to it. Sometimes it comes from a movie star who wants a better way to turn a corner. Sometimes it comes from a quiet engineer who cared more about people than he did about rigid steel. Their stories are woven into the fabric of the automobile. They remind us that progress is often a series of small, brilliant steps taken by people who simply saw a better way of doing things. They weren't just designing cars, they were designing a better, safer world for all of us. The next time you get into your car, take a moment, look around. Notice the curve of the dashboard, the placement of the controls, the satisfying click of the turn signal. These things aren't there by chance. They are the result of a century of trial, error, and quiet genius. They are the echoes of unsung heroes who dedicated their lives to making these machines better. So, as you head out on the road, give a little nod to Florence, to Bella, and to all the other ghosts in the machine. Their legacy is all around us, keeping us safe and pointing the way forward. Thank you for watching the hidden history of automotive design. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to Whip Cupids for more fascinating stories from the world of cars. Your support helps us bring more hidden heroes to light.